interesting is that you made a choice as a student to pursue history. By all accounts, you were an excellent student yourself, and you could have done any subject you wanted to, but you chose history. And from what I also understand from some of the research I did, you chose history and you chose academics because your parents told you that writing didn't have any money in it. So I'm very curious. I'm very curious to know how did you think that there would be money in history, and why did you choose history as a topic?
No, let me explain. The first part is, my parents basically saw my writing and encouraged it. My father, to his great credit, would type up my stories and have them in a form that could be shared with friends and so on, and that gave me an early sense of belief in myself as a writer, as somebody who could write something that other people would want to read. So after all, the definition of a writer must include somebody who has readers. But at the same time, when they realized how seriously I was taking it and how involved I was in it, they cautioned me that this was not a viable profession.
Sure.
And indeed, at the time that I was growing up in India in the 60s, there was only one full-time writer in the entire country, and that was R.K. Narayan. Otherwise, and that he published his own books because he felt there was not enough money if he gave his books to a publisher to publish.
Sure.
So for somebody who wasn't yet R.K. Narayan, one had to be able to think seriously. And I was also extremely or inconveniently good at taking exams. So I had this inconvenient habit of coming first and everything all the time. My parents said, this is what you should concentrate on, write on the side, but work away at your studies. And so I did that because in any case, I have to admit, I did have a talent for it. I could remember things in time to regurgitate them in the examinations, which is what the teachers wanted, of course. Sadly, we can have a different conversation about the education system. But anyway, when it came to streaming in class 9, I asked for humanities. And my teachers were so upset, they called my parents to the school. And they objected rather violently, saying, this is our best science student. He's come first in science throughout. Why does he want to do humanities?
Sure.
So they turned to me and said, why? They had all these middle-class fantasies of producing a doctor or an engineer in the family. And there I was going to go off into humanities. So I said, the fact is I don't like the subject at all. I'm just good at taking the exam, but I forget everything I've studied for the science exam the day after I've taken the exam. Whereas if you ask me about history or about literature, I can respond with knowledge and passion and insight. So they said, all right, do what you like. And I did humanities. Again, I did very well in the exams, and I came first in the state, which de facto also meant first in the country. And at the end of that, I could have got into a more fashionable humanities subject, namely economics. And that's what my parents assumed I would do, since all the quote-unquote smart humanities students were doing that. I said, no, I want to do history. And again, the same conversation. So I said, look, this is what interests me. In fact, St. Stephen's College that I applied to was so shocked to get my application for history that they gave me admission without an interview, which I believe has never happened since. But the reason was that people with those marks weren't applying to study history. They were all going to economics. And then when I finished that and did rather well in the exams as well, my parents said, look, you've done all the wrong things. At least take the IIM examinations, just in case. So I did, and the sort of luck with examinations continued, and I came first. There were only 2 IIMs in the country in those days. So I came first in IIM Calcutta and second in IIM Ahmedabad on the admissions list. But meanwhile, a scholarship came through to the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy to study international politics. So again, I said to my parents, I'd rather do that. And the end of that was I was blessed with very understanding parents. What can I say?
Sure.
Many kids, even today, are complaining about having had to do things to appease their parents that they might not really have wanted to do. But that was something my parents never burdened me with. So I followed my own passion. When I went to Fletcher, actually, it was a move away from history because it was international affairs, international politics that I worked on. But the important thing was that I was throughout able to follow my intellectual interests. And it happened to lie in that field. Why that field? I don't know. Maybe history was like, listening to or reading a lot of stories. But I was a kind of crazy kid who, in class 10, for example, I maintained an entire notebook of essays I wrote for myself that were not required by the school, that were never seen by a teacher, corrected by a teacher, and that obliged me to do additional reading beyond the school books, merely because the subject excited